Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be doing the Raiders offense and pretty much their schedule and what I think they're going to be doing. Before I get into that, I'm going to be talking about like their stats that they had last year. Derek Carr, QB, he had 4,054 passing yards with 22 touchdowns. Their rookie running back, Josh Jacobs, had 1,150 yards with 7 touchdowns. And their receivers from last year, Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow, had a combined total of about 1,200 yards with about 6 touchdowns for Tyrell Williams and 4 touchdowns for Hunter Henry. And now they're going to be adding a rookie receiver in Henry Ruggs. And I believe that he will be adding speed to that offense. He's going to be like another Tyreek Hill, I believe, just younger and probably in a different kind of offense. And then at tight end, they have Darren Waller. He was their leading receiver with 1,145 yards and 3 touchdowns. And now into their offensive stats. They had, in total first downs, they had 315 compared to their opponents of 344. They had 104 total rushing first downs, and then their opponents had 91. Probably due to Josh Jacobs having a good year, them leaning on him more. And then with passing, they had 194 first downs, and their opponents had 201. And they had 17 yards by penalty, 17 first downs by penalty, and their opponents only had 52, which is way more than that. And with third down conversions, they had 88 out of 201, which is a completion percentage of 43. And their opponents had an 81 out of 190, which is a completion percentage of 42. And for fourth down conversion, they had 11 out of 19, which is a 57 percentage. And their opponents had 9 out of 13, which is a 69 completion percentage. And now for their total offensive yards, they had 5,819, and their opponents had 5,677. They had 989 plays compared to their opponents of 986, and average yards they had 5.9, and so did their opponents. With total rushing yards, they had 1,893, and their opponents only had 1,570. That's probably due to Josh Jacobs having a pretty good rookie career, even though he didn't win rookie offensive player of the year. He still had a great career for a rookie. And then for total rushing yards, they had 437 plays, and their opponents only had 405. And for average yards, they had 4.3, and their opponents had 3.9. For passing yards, they only had 3,926 compared to their opponents of 4,107, which is really not that much, even though Derek Carr can lead an offense to a wild card playoff spot, because now he's going to have the weapons around him that he can make it there. Now it's just going to be on him and see if he can make it there. With completions, they had 367 out of 523, which is a completion percentage of 70, and their opponents had completions 337 out of attempts of 526, which is a completion percentage of 64, and they only had 8 interceptions compared to their opponents of 9. I believe that happened because they really leaned on their running game more than their passing game, because they didn't really have that many offensive weapons other than Darren Waller. And then they averaged 7.9 yards per play for passing, and their opponents averaged 8.3. And with defense, they had a total of 32 sacks compared to their opponents of 29. They had that many sacks due to their rookie defensive pass rushers with Max Crosby, and then their first-round pick that they had last year that probably shouldn't have been a first-round pick but still played really good. And then for field goals, they made 19 out of 26, and then their opponents made 20 out of 26. For touchdowns, they had 37, and their opponents had 51. With rushing touchdowns, they had 13, And then for passing, they had 22. Their opponents had 15 rushing touchdowns, and their opponents had 33 passing touchdowns. With returns, they had 0, and their opponents had 0. For defensive touchdowns, they had 2, and their opponents had 3. For time of possession, they had over 31 minutes of time of possession, which is more than half of of a regular game. And their opponents only had 28 minutes and 58 seconds, which is pretty close. And they had a -2 turnover ratio, which is really not good. You want it to be positive. Like the Chiefs had, they had a +8 turnover ratio, which is probably one of the best in the league, just because of how good their secondary is. I believe that the Chiefs are still going to win their division, just because of how explosive their offense is. Now getting into their schedule. With their Week 1 opener, they are going to be playing the Panthers. I believe that they're going to win that game. If they can win this game, if they stop Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is really the Panthers' only weapon other than DJ Moore. But then when they go into Week 2, they're going to be playing the Saints at home. They're going to have they're going to have their first home game. They're going to be losing that game just because the Saints have something to prove this year, because they have been losing the playoffs for the past couple of years. And the Saints have Alvin Kamara, they have Michael Thomas, they have all these good receivers, and then they still have Drew Brees, and that's why they'll win that game. And then Week 3, they're going to be playing the Patriots away at Patriots Stadium. They are going to be losing that game just because the Raiders have really never beat the Patriots in a home game. The last time they played us, they lost at Mexico City. Week 4, they're going to be playing the Bills, and they're going to be losing that game again, just because the Bills have more of an offense. The way that they can win that game is if they lean on Josh Jacobs more, and also pass to Henry Ruggs. That's the only way they'll win that game, but I still think they'll lose it. And then Week 5, they are playing the Chiefs. I don't even think the Raiders will have a chance with the Chiefs, just because the Raiders don't have speed in their secondary. And then Week 6, they're going to be playing the Bucks. The Bucks are like really one of the most hyped offensives this year, just because they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, they have Gronk, they have all these players that can win for their team. And the Raiders, they just really have Henry Ruggs, Josh Jacobs, and Tyrell Williams. And then Week 7, I believe they are playing the Browns. They are going to be winning that game, just because I don't know what the Browns' identity is yet. We don't know if they're going to want to be passing more or running more, because they have Nick Chubb, which is a really great running back, in my opinion. And then that next week, they're going to be playing the Chargers. They're going to be winning that game also, because the Chargers are just they don't even know who their quarterback is, if it's Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert. They have the receivers to do good, and then they have a good running back in Austin Eckler. And then the next week, they're going to be playing the Broncos at home. They're going to be winning that game, just because the Broncos, even though they have another good running back in Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, I just don't think they'll win that game, because Drew Lock hasn't proved anything yet. Even though it was just his first year last year, he didn't prove anything like people thought he would. And then that next week, they're going to be playing the Chiefs again, and they're going to be losing that game again, just because they can't keep up with the Chiefs' speed receivers, and they also won't be able to get the ball off, because the Chiefs have a good pass rush. I believe that the Chiefs will just need linebackers that are fast, because they don't really have that many good linebackers. But then the next week, they're also going to be playing the Falcons, and they're going to be losing that game, because the Falcons have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then they also have Todd Gurley and some other great running backs that could help them win. Then this is where the Jets can this is where the Raiders can possibly get to the playoffs if they win all their next games, which they probably can, because they're winnable. That next week they're going to be playing the Jets. The Jets are just not even really a team that's a threat that much anymore. They're going to be winning that game. The next week they're going to be playing the Colts. They're going to be winning that game too because the Colts they only have Marlon Mack and then T.Y. Hilton. They really can't do anything with Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers won't be able to do anything really that much because he left that system in the Chargers, and he won't be able to play the same like he did in L.A. That next week, the Chargers are going to be going to the Raiders. The Raiders will win that game too, just because the Chargers I don't believe they'll win that many games this year. And then the next week, they're going to be playing the Dolphins. They're going to be winning that game too, even though the Dolphins will be having Tua. And then they're also going to be having Devontae Parker and all these good players. And they also added great players to their defense. But I still don't know how good the Dolphins will do this year until they play a couple games. And then their last week of the season, they're going to be playing the Broncos. They're going to be winning that game too, just because of what I said in the last time they played them. And with that, they're going to be finishing 9-7, and I believe that will be good enough for a wild card wild card spot. And I believe it'll be the 6th seed. I don't think it'll be like a good seed. I feel like they'll be the last one. But if you want me to do your team, you just have to like this video and comment who you want, and I'll be doing your video shortly. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.